Hello, everybody. I'm Mike once again with a layman's perspective of Romans. As you can see, I have my headphones on today. My kids are over here watching TV and stuff, so I'm trying to keep the noise down as well as I can. So it might look a little strange, but hey, we do what we got to do for the glory of God, right? All right, so this week we're going to be going line by line through Romans 1:18 through 23. We finished up last week with the thesis statement in verse 17. For in it the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the righteous shall live by faith. Right, now, as explained last time, this understanding this statement from faith to faith is a little bit difficult to understand. My take on it is that it's from faith, that is the start of faith, to the end of faith, that in the entire spectrum of being a righteous one of God is by faith. And there's also a connection from verse 17 to verse 18. Verse 17 states that the righteousness of God is revealed by faith. And in verse 18, it has the wrath of God is revealed. So you got two parallel statements right there. The wrath of God, the righteousness of God being revealed by faith, and the wrath of God as being revealed from heaven against ungodliness and unrighteousness. So you see a split right here. Those who live in unbelief and those who live by belief, live by faith. Yeah. All right, so you have the begins verse 18 with the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth and unrighteousness. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is the wrath of God, and I mentioned this before last time. The Greek here, orge, which is wrath or anger, it does not have an article with it. So that either generalizes it, which means a wrath of God, but that doesn't really fit the context here. And context is always what drives the meaning of words. So every translation that I've read has the wrath of God. And so what it's doing, because it does not have the article in it, is that it's actually stressing the substance of that. It's the wrath of God. So just that for a second. All right, and what does that mean, the wrath of God? Well, when we think of wrath in a human sense, we're thinking of a more corruptible type of wrath, like revenge. Let me see what I wrote down here for it. Anger as a passion or desire for revenge, right? That's a human understanding of wrath. So when someone does something, we go into a rage or a wrath, and that's a human response, right? But when we have these attributes of God, he is incorruptible, right? So all of his attributes are whole pure. So you could even say that this is a righteous wrath. And what it is it's primarily his act of judgment on people, on unbelief. So you have the righteousness being revealed by faith, and the end result of that is ultimately salvation, right? That's how we are saved, from the gospel. That's what it's talking about. Okay, and now the wrath of God, though, it's in the present. There's a current judgment right now on people for it, and then ultimately, it's going to be that ultimate separation and destruction when his full wrath is upon them on the day of judgment. But in the current, it's an active judgment for their unbelief, and he's going to develop that argument more. So his statement there is that the wrath of God is going to be revealed from him against all ungodliness and unrighteousness. Okay, so I put it in as like a horizontal and a vertical. Okay, so ungodliness means directed towards God. It is an impiety. It's displayed as sacrilegious words and deeds. Okay, so it's the things that are offensive to God and directed at God. And then unrighteousness of men is directed horizontally towards other men. So it's violations of human rights or treating one another without justice. right? And how do they do this? They suppress. Okay, so Paul is saying that they suppress the truth in unrighteousness. And then verse 19 is sort of going to explain that, okay, because he just made the statement that they suppress the truth. And now he's going to back up that charge with it, and with the statement that because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them. And now he's going to develop that in verse 20. So he starts off with this charge that they're suppressing. This is how they are suppressing. This is why it can't be so. Okay, so 4. Since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so they are without excuse. Right, so from the creation of the world, his adios right here, eternal power and divine nature. Now this one adjective is actually governing both of these nouns right here. They all match. So it's like saying like his eternal power and his eternal divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made. And I put a note here that now it's focusing on creation itself as displaying the divinity. Actually, like divinity better than divine nature, because divine nature I think fits better in Colossians 2:9. It says that the fullness of deity dwells within or is embodied in Christ, and that's Colossians 2:9. And I think that that's a better word. His divinity is being shown, but his entire divine nature is seen throughout Christ. But that still is, it's conveying that idea that God isn't holding himself back from people. And I believe I have that here. Where is that? For through what has been made. All right, and this is what theologians call a general revelation. That is how God has made himself manifest to all peoples of all times through his creation. That is called a general revelation. And that is found throughout the scriptures. So one of my favorite ones is in Psalm 19. I'm just going to actually read 1 through 4 right here. And it says that the heavens are telling the glory of God, and the expanse is declaring the work of his hands. Day by day pours forth speech, and night by night reveals knowledge. And there is no speech, nor are there words that their voice is not heard. The line has gone throughout all the earth, and their utterances to the end of the earth. And then he has placed a tent for the sun. Okay, now that's a little bit of poetic language right there, but what it is talking about is that creation and everything that we see points to a creator. Everything from the symmetry that is seen in nature, right? I mean, we set our clocks, set our watches by the rotations. Those are reliable things that day in and day out. Every night we have the evenings and we see the stars, and all these clockworks all point to God and how he is orderly, and how there is wisdom, and how nature really takes care of itself. These are all pointing to, and of course that's just outward too. If we look inward, we know that modern science has shown just the supreme amount of intellect. They usually call it intelligent design, just in how the body is made and how it functions, and the required amount of storage that is in DNA for it, and the coding for it to do exactly what it does, and how it repairs itself, and everything that we've just learned. All these things, whether you're looking outside or whether you're looking inside, it's all pointing towards it, God. It all points us to it. Now, that isn't enough to be saved. That comes through what's generally called a special revelation. Usually we see that within the Bible and how you have to believe in Christ. But he has made himself known far as the sun reaches everywhere, and it touches everything. That's how vast God has made himself known. What I like about Psalm 19 is that in the next section of it, in the next stanza, it starts with the general revelation of God, and then it goes into the special revelation, and it brings about how the Bible, even the Bible in his time, he's talking about it's flawless, it's without error, and it's enough to bring about salvation. And so that's what the difference between general revelation is just how God is known throughout his creation. Special revelation brings in the relationship that is needed for salvation. But that's how God is making himself known. And what Paul is saying is that they're suppressing that, but God has made it so clear and evident to them that in this next phrase, and so that they are without excuse. Now, this is what's called an infinitive of result. That means that basically, as a result of him being spread out and seen in his creation, they have no excuse. They are without a defense. It really is kind of what it's conveying about it. So they won't be able to make a charge. Oh, I did, and no one, everything else. No, he's saying that he's clearly seen. Right? And then now it's further expanding it. That they are without excuse. So now he's going to go on and explain that a little bit further. For even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God, nor give thanks, but became futile in their speculations, and their foolish hearts were darkened. So this word foolish right here, whenever the Bible talks about a fool, it's not talking about a lack of intelligence. It's a lack of moral culpability, that they're not believing it on purpose. And so the foolishness right there, sunesis is one of understanding. Asunesis is one void of understanding, senseless, foolish, implying also a lack of high moral quality. And so that's the charge that's being brought against them. Not that they intellectually don't understand it. They do understand it. It says that at the start, they knew it was God, but they didn't honor him as God or give thanks. So this is how he's developing that charge against them. It's not an intellectual thing. It's because it's their morality that's being charged against it. Anytime you see the fool in Psalm 14:1, or the fool says he has no heart, that's not an intellectual charge. No, that's a moral charge within it. And then it goes on, professing to be wise, they became fools. Right? And this this word right here, this fool is from morano, which is where we get our word moron from. So they're professing to be wise, but they become morons, useless. That's another way that it's used, like when Christ says that salt loses its flavor. That's what it is. It's moron. It's something not used for its intended purpose. And so, and professing to be wise, we talking first century Greek culture, and wisdom was the highest attribute you could have. And so you have all these people professing to be wise, but they're useless. They're void of knowledge. They're fools. And then this is actually connecting these. They became fools, and they exchanged the incorruptible God for an image of corruptible man and birds and four-footed animals and crawling creatures. And this it's actually a word for reptiles, even for crawling creatures. But this is almost a direct quotation. It carries along the same idea, where Paul could be quoting here from Psalm 106:20, and it's dealing with the sin of Israel when they made the calf at Horeb. And in that one, here I'll bring up they exchanged the glory of God for the image of an ox. that eats grass. And they're talking about the cow incident there when they where Moses was up and then he comes back down and these people, Aaron had fashioned the golden calf and they ended up having to kill 3,000 people that day, and it was a day of judgment. And so it's kind of along the same where they are exchanging the glory of the incorruptible God for an image, an incorruptible man, and birds, and forth all the creatures. Now, of course, also in first century, they had these images up everywhere, and just moving it over today, we might have risen up from above the different animals that people glory in. Of course, some places always do, but we definitely have corruptible man in place. So we got that going on. All right, and then after this, that was down through verse 23. So I hope you all enjoy that. I hope you got something for that. Next time when we come back through, we're going to start through verse 24, and I might do 24, 26, 28 because they're all connected with it. But here's a little short video for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Be blessed, and I'll talk with you later. Goodbye.